Hello, Internet, and thank you for joining me today. Never let it be said I don't listen to my audience. As such, I will be taking the advice of all member of my audience and making car-based jokes throughout this entire video. On that note, Ironheart, the show, was a bigger waste of time and money than financing a 2021 F-150.
Have you ever been beaten by a wet spaghetti noodle by your girlfriend because she has a twin sister and you got confused and fucked her dad? Well, that's how it feels to drive a Ford F-250.
And like the average experience driving a Ford, I'm filled with regret and disappointment. By the way, I've only watched the first 3 episodes of this show. For you see, just like General Motors, Marvel has stopped making good things somewhere around the neighborhood of 2019. So now all we're left with is the GMC Terrain to hopefully get from A to B. But in the case of Ironheart, we don't even make it that far because this series has already crashed and burned spectacularly. But here's the thing. I don't want to copy everyone else talking about this show, just like I want all the major car companies to stop making identical SUVs. So this means I'm going to do my best to try to talk about things no one else is talking about right now. In that vein, Riri fucking sucks. I'm old enough to remember a time where Chevy made reliable vehicles, and we used to sit around bitching and moaning about how the comic book movies weren't like the comics they were based on. So imagine my shock as I barrel towards 40, wishing they would throw everything from the comic books out and do something with not inherently bad ideas. Case in point, Riri Williams. Black girl Tony Stark isn't an inherently bad idea on paper, much like the relaunch of the Bronco. However, like the relaunch of the Bronco, it's the execution where things really start to fall apart. Now, I haven't diverged much from mainstream opinion here, so let me go ahead and start to do that now. See, everyone's talking about Riri like she's an asshole, and rest assured, she is an asshole. But I feel like everyone's not giving you the whole story on how much of an asshole she is. And honestly, I could spend all day telling you every little detail about how she's this massive asshole to everyone, but I just want to pick out one specific spot so that we can move on with our lives. I got to replace the spark plugs in my 94 F-150, so that's going to take the rest of the week. So we're just going to stick with the biggest example of her being an asshole. So at the end of episode 3, Ironheart, Riri, our villain, has tried to get a piece of the cloak of the guy you're supposed to think is the villain, but really he's on the same moral level as Riri. And this has led to a fight with that one henchman so generic, I assume he drives a Kia. This fight leads to him getting trapped in a facility that's quickly filling with CO2. And for my audience members keeping score at home, CO2 is not oxygen. So our Kia boy dies, and our fucking hero, quote-unquote, does a flyby of the facility and is like, yeah, he's dead. Don't know what happened. You lying bitch. You know exactly what happened. And now all the other henchmen that have known this guy for ostensibly years are out here crying, and all you can say is, well, that's the way shit goes. At least come up with like a comforting lie. Don't just lie to them and say nothing. But apparently we're supposed to take her side because her name's in the title. Guess that's good enough for some critics. Now, this would be bad enough, but the woman is crying in the next scene. And apparently we as audience members are supposed to care about this. And honestly, I haven't 100% figured out why. Like, is she crying because she took the life of another human being with thoughts and feelings and family? Granted, that family member is the Hood, and I guess he's got some deal going on with the devil, so that's not great. And most of the thoughts and feelings at the end of his life were about trying to murder her, which, you know, I'm not unempathetic to. Or is she crying because she almost died? Girl, did you watch your last movie? You fought Hispanic Aquaman. Was he not close enough to killing you? Nah. I'm sure that generic dude with knife was way more threatening than Diet Jason Momoa. But honestly, I think the real reason the writers and the director put this scene here of her crying is to demonstrate her trauma, which she does have a fairly traumatic backstory. It's one of the few things about this show that I can actually praise. And her breaking down in this moment does actually make a lot of narrative sense. However, the situation we find ourselves in with our hero is not unlike the situation that Chrysler finds itself in with the Jeep Wagoneer. It's entirely engineered by you, and it's totally your fault that everything's fucked up and a mess. It's bad. It's a bad superhero and a bad car company. So yeah, I just feel very little sympathy when the ghost of your best friend shows up and you're all sad about it and shit. Because in times like these, it's important to remember everything happens for a reason. And sometimes those reasons are you're stupid and you lack talent. And the actor that's playing you really fucking sucks. Part 2. Engineering. So a lot of people on YouTube have been talking about Riri's ability to create these crazy inventions that all seem to be commercially viable products that she could 100% sell. And that would eliminate her whole need for money, which is like her entire motivation for doing fucking anything. And honestly, all these YouTubers aren't wrong. But let me just say that as a guy that understands engineering about as well as I know how to steal a catalytic converter, her designs are straight ass. Straight booty juice. Like, why the fuck does her AI get to run the whole goddamn suit? She can't even manually lower the visor so she doesn't get shot in her stupid fucking face. Also, any good ideas she's had already existed in this fucking universe to begin with. Let's start with that AI. Not only can it just take over the suit whenever the hell it wants, not only does she need it for literally everything that she runs, but it can also get scared and just not obey commands. This seems like a really big security flaw. Maybe run this by your IT guy, Riri. Also, this thing's unoriginal as hell. It's already been invented like 3 times over by Tony Stark and kinda MIT, I guess. Like, first we had Jarvis, and then he got put into Vision. Cool, fine. Everyone's okay with that. Then we had Friday. That's cool. I'm alright with that. Then there was the MIT AI that she used to fly out of the school, which apparently just crashed after it realized she was expelled. Again, seems like a really big security risk to have that just not work. But also, I have to believe that this is based on that simulation thing from the beginning of Civil War. You know, the thing that Tony built. So why is hologram Natalie considered this big step forward? This technology should be mundane at this point. Although I really like Natalie's character, and her actor is one of the only people that I respect in this show. The only thing that seems really revolutionary about any of this is that she's running this AI and hologram off of good vibes and black girl magic. The technical understanding of this show makes me think that all of the writers were actually just senior level Ford engineers. That would explain gender nonconforming Freddy Krueger here. Like, no shade about whatever you identify as, but I have serious doubts on whether or not you can safely wipe your ass with those machetes you glued to your hand, let alone do anything on a keyboard. I actually started cracking up at the one scene where they're robbing the public transit system. Our heroes, ladies and gentlemen. And they had like 2.5 seconds to write some magic bullshit code to force the conveyors to stop and make Chrysler's financial plan make sense. And they got this individual running their hand all over their keyboard with these daggers sticking out of their hands. All I could think of was that scene out of Family Guy where Peter has the really long nails and he's trying to do office work.
Scanian, Weinstock, and Reisman. Hey, LaRonda. No, I got 4 people on hold, but I can talk.
Hilarious. I could go on about the technology, but I'm already all over the road like a white wine mom in an expedition. Part 3, Delusions of Grandeur. I think back to those halcyon days where I wanted Chevy to make a decent engine again and comic book movies to be more accurate to the source material. And I weep. Alas, the gnarled finger on that particular monkey's paw curled. So now we do have the ZZ632 in a crate instead of production lines, and Ironheart exists to test our faith in the law. Yeah, the writers on the show are definitely punching above their weight class here. For a final time, I'm going to narrow this down to one simple scene so that I don't go on and on for the next 6 hours. Alright, so the scene is that the Hood, the supposed bad guy, decided that Wanted actually wasn't a terrible movie, so he decides to bend a bullet around Riri to shoot a cop in the face. And Riri and her imaginary friend are talking about what just transpired. And in the background of this scene, there are posters all along this street corner that seem to be advertising a play called Faust. What in the fuck? As if this show wasn't a 2x4 in my fucking urethra, you pretentious twats think you're real fucking slick throwing in a reference to Faust. Fucking Faust. The serpent that tempted Eve will see the kingdom of heaven before you miserable dicks. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. A Marvel writer trying to tie themselves to a classic like Faust is like Ford trying to compete with Jeep by releasing the Bronco. Listen, honey, you make garbage. Just stay in your lane. All that being said, I hope it's warm inside your own assholes, because I've heard winter is coming for you and all your little fucking friends. Now, just to make my thoughts clear on this matter, I find that there are zero parallels between Ironheart and fucking Faust. Unless you're just gonna boil both stories down to, and then the devil showed up, which is a real fucking shame, because Faust is a timeless story about not taking life's pleasures to excess. And it does not slot neatly into a show about how selfish assholes go out of their way to be dicks to everyone that didn't immediately suck their dicks. Fuck you, writers of Ironheart. Alright, I got a little heated here. And that's really all I've got today, so I'm going to end it here. So if you too disliked Ironheart, and you don't understand why Ford engineers hate regular maintenance, leave a like and a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching. Sayonara, bitches.